Ladies and gentlemen, I think let's get started. We do apologize profusely for starting late, but there were some administrative issues that came up. We had to sort out. You are most welcome to this morning's discussions, which I think I look forward to the meeting, and I think it will be very, very stimulating. The purpose of this morning's discussions is to think ahead as we come to the end of this Delta's funding, and there will be the next Delta's call, I believe. How do we position ourselves as Thrive to put in an application which is very competitive and where the funders are left with no choice but to say Thrive must get its new funding. So please, let's have a very lively exchange because your contributions will make a difference in how we move forward. We need to keep in mind our strengths, those who know Thrive quite well. What are our strengths? And what are our weaknesses? And looking ahead, the whole issue of doing science in Africa, what do you see as, coming ahead of us in the next 5-10 years, which we should take into consideration as we think about the future of Thrive? So basically, that's what we're going to be doing until around 12:30, and we have a mix of people around here. But if we try to introduce ourselves one at a time, I think we'll be losing a lot of time. What I might say is that all the Thrive institutions are represented here. Cambridge is here, and if by show of hands, those people from Cambridge, please, there you are, 4 of them at least. London School. Why a half?
Well, because I'm supposed to be UBRI today.
I thought you were going to say that because you are shorter than David.
Yeah, this is also true.
Okay. We do have people from KCMC. Please, there you are. And I think some others are still outside there. I made a few. Nimri Mwanza, right? Isipe, great. What is left? Yeah, Uganda Virus Research Institute. Now she's somehow there. Thank you. Guru University. Yes, right here, Professor Theo Elizabeth, and Makerere University. Right. The other institution I haven't mentioned. No. So those are the institutions here. But we also have some of our members of the advisory board. If we can just put up your hand. 2 of them are here. And then what? Of course, from our African institutions, there are some Thrive fellows in the Middle East, because they're the ones who have been experiencing the training for research at PhD postdoc level. We believe they have some insights, they have some experiences which they might think will inform our work forward. We are also privileged to have Dr. Alphonse Neva, who is from the African Academy of Sciences, and he is here in Europe, attends our annual general meetings, and because he's right in the kitchen down at the African Academy of Sciences, he has insights, the thinking into the future of Delta. And we thought that he would actually start off this meeting by telling us what do they think? Where are the deltas likely to go into the future. Of course, I don't think you will give us any privileged information which might put Thrive in a better competing position than others, but will give us information which is open to others to receive. So even the chair of our advisory board also belongs to another delta. I mean, he's free to listen to what's said. He's right here. And I think, chair of the advisory board, I call upon you to chair this meeting and give us some sense of direction. All I'm doing is I'm more interested in hearing also the discussion than being responsible for managing the scene. So, with those opening remarks, by the way, for those who don't know me, I don't know whether I introduce myself. I'm Nelson Sawankambo, and I'm the director of Thrive. So, Alphonse, you mind coming ahead and giving us some statements about Delta, the way you see it, and the future.
Good morning, everyone. Yeah, it's always a privilege to be amongst you at this annual meeting. I remember last year we had a very good time at Moshi in Tanzania. And at that time, the quality of the research that was already coming out of the Thrive Consortium was very, very impressive. So I'm quite sure that has been jacked up a number of notches higher. Some privileged information, Nelson. There will be a Delta Phase 2. It is going to be on competitive basis, as all funding applications are. And therefore, I think this meeting gives a very good opportunity for the Thrive Consortium to think through carefully what we're probably going to do differently, to think through what we probably haven't done very well over the past couple of years, and to try to tidy that up as we stay at the finishing line for Delta Phase 1. The African Academy of Sciences was invited by Wellcome Trust a couple of months back to put in an application for renewal, which we did. We had since have the Wellcome Trust send a team of independent advisors as part of the review process for Delta's Phase 2. So they were looking at the Delta's Africa Phase 1 and what we've done so far. And they were also looking at the ISA platform and its capabilities to continue to implement a future Delta's Phase 2. So the good thing is that we invited some Delta's program directors who participated at this meeting, and also invited some Delta's fellows who participated at this meeting. If David Mayer is here, he represented Thrive, and he represented Thrive very, very sterlingly. So we're very, very happy with all the Thrive fellows that we selected to participate at the meeting, which actually shows the quality of science that is coming out through the Delta's research programs. Delta's Phase 1 was funded through the International Operations Department at the Wellcome Trust. Delta's Phase 2 will be funded by the Science Division. So one would expect that the Science Division will be very much interested in scientific outputs and future scientific outputs. So in doing this review, we had to select and put our best research forward, and to actually demonstrate that the Delta's program was on its way to produce the results that we had undertaken when we started the Delta's program, which is to build a critical mass of globally competitive world research leaders on the continent. So I think it was very obvious that what the review team saw in terms of the fellows' presentation was testimony that we are on track to deliver that goal as outlined in Delta Space 1. In our application for Delta Space 2, we made a proposal to have a closed call for the current 11 Delta Africa programs and an open call for maybe 5 new consortia focusing on different areas. Unfortunately, the review team and the discussion so far with the Wellcome Trust don't seem to support this particular line of action. They believe, however, that whatever we had intended to achieve with the closed call and the open call, we could design the call such that the objectives are met in a single call. So most likely, there will be an open call for the 11 Delta Africa programs in addition to new other applicants who may be interested in doing the call. I don't see it as a setback. I see it as an opportunity for you to demonstrate again why you were successful in Delta Space 1. So I think you've got your role cut out for you in terms of planning and strategizing. So there will be 11 calls. One other thing that I need to mention is we may likely have a reduced level of funding, which is understandable in the sense that Delta Space 1 spent a lot of time in developing the infrastructure for doing science. Buildings were built, state-of-the-art equipment was procured across the programs, standard operating procedures were implemented, and I think generally the various consortia, they have worked very well. There have been problematic issues with some partners, and at AAS, we always advise the program directors not to blink even once if they have to drop any partner that's not coming on board and trying to pull the rest of the consortium members down. So it's entirely up to the director and the independent scientific advisory board for Thrive to decide how they proceed and deal with partners that are not very, very cooperative. We have also identified other areas that we think new programs could cover, and that we think even existing programs could also leverage on what they already have on the ground in terms of skills and expertise and systems in place to deal with. And so those areas will include mental health, they will include NCDs, amongst others. We are also talking to a number of other partners who have also agreed. They haven't agreed, but they have shown, they haven't said no to our approach. So there might be additional funding for additional programs for Delta Space 2, because we're talking to DFID, and you all know DFID was one of the partners for Delta Space 1. Because of issues around Brexit and some other issues, they have not been able to make that commitment. But they have been very clear that their inability to make the commitment to be part of Delta Space 2 at this stage, by no means suggests that they are saying no to us. So we know very, very well that as they sort out Brexit and other issues with funding cycles and stuff, they will be able to take that decision further. And they have indicated also that if they fund us for Delta Space 2, then they'll probably do it alone as opposed to being in partnership with Wellcome Trust, which means they'll have to subject us to due diligence and some other activities in readiness for that. We are also talking to the Department of Health and Social Care, I think, in the UK, and in principle, we can state that most likely they will also come on board, and one other funder that I'm not quite the name has actually slipped my mind. So what I'm trying to say is that come September, we will have a final decision about funding for Delta's Phase 2 when the Welcome Trust Board of Governors meet. I mentioned to Nelson earlier on that until we have the signature sign on dotted lines, only then can we say we have funding for Delta's Phase 2. But based on discussions and processes so far, we would say we are at about 99.5%. So we're just waiting for that signature come September, except some major obstacles crop up when we are not aware of. So we are hoping that we have additional Delta's programs. I already mentioned that when we have additional funding from the various prospective partners that are already coming on board to do or to provide funding for Delta's Phase 2. So Nelson, I'm not quite sure whether this is useful information for the consortium, but I'm quite sure I'll be able to take 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 questions. Thank you very much.
So well, thank you very much. Again, my name is Wilfred Pacham, and assisting Nelson chair the board. Are there 1 or 2 questions for Alphonse? Yes, please.
In the areas that you identify, as priority areas such as mental health NCDs for future developments, do you see this as being largely through new consortia or for existing consortia to further develop those aspects?
Initially, I made it very clear to the review committee, and it's on record, that my personal recommendation would have been for all the 11 Delta's programs to be refunded, and new programs to take new areas. But as it is, if it's competitive, I would imagine that we'll keep it open. Again, like I mentioned, if Thrive feels that you've developed the capacity already, you have the capacity in-house to consolidate on your current areas and also do new aspects, then you have to clearly state that in the application. But we do envisage new programs that are in these areas and other areas.
Sure. Well, since you're close to her, she could have that. No, she can have that and then that.
Alphonse, I'm just curious because some of the new areas you mentioned maybe seem to be represented within H3 Africa. So, for example, Amari, mental health. I don't know how it plays when you make the call, and how the competition between the Delta's consortium and the H3 Africa consortium. I don't know how you foresee that, and also how much funding are you requesting from Welcome? Is it similar to the level we have now, or is there an increase you've requested that has been approved?
It's let me start with this question. In the interest of openness, Welcome had invited us to apply for £65 million. That amount includes cost of managing and implementing the program and cost of direct grants to the various programs. We made that application and it has come back with major budget lines being reviewed, and it is very likely that we are going to get less than that amount. That's first question answered. The second question, I think the areas that we think we could add to the current research areas I think there are areas that there is great need for on the continent, and that when you look all around, there's not a lot of research going on in those areas. So we try to diversify into areas where there is a lot of need. And by the way, they are not the only areas. I think as we think through and as we develop the call, there will be more areas. So if you look at mental health, for instance, current Delta's program has got just one program on mental health. I'm not quite sure if there are a lot of other mental health programs that are funded on the continent. NCDs is a big problem. It's an emerging problem for Africa. So it just makes sense that we need to start looking into that area if our ultimate goal is to be a healthy continent, so to speak. Yeah. We know that those who are already involved in this field may have some form of advantage, but not necessarily.
I was interested because I happen to know I think you had a meeting about social science in Nairobi, and I was quite curious it was not one of the areas you just mentioned. So I wondered whether you were actually going to profile that a bit more, because I think part of that discussion was actually there is a lack of capacity building on social science. Lots of people love to do methods courses, but not social science in the broadest sense.
Yes, the social sciences is one of the key strategic areas for the African Academy of Sciences, and how we are approaching that is to develop an entirely new program in the image of Delta's Africa to deal with social sciences. So there's a parallel process that's going on, consulting scientists on the continent, social scientists, with consulting partners, and consulting the Wellcome Trust to develop a standalone program like Delta's, but which focuses on social sciences. So there's really no need to make social sciences at this point in time as one of the focal areas for the new call. But there's a long time between now and when the call will be issued, and things might just change.
I hope you're not excluding social science from Deltas.
No, we're not excluding social sciences from Deltas too. Of course, we know that most of the programs have got components of social sciences. Yeah.
No, I think we're done with questions. Okay.
Yeah, as we all know, Deltas has had in the theory of change for the Deltas. There are 4 pillars. And one of those pillars, in my view, has received mixed feelings so far. And that is the one on scientific citizenship. And that reminds me, for those who don't know Abraham, because when at the beginning I said people from this institution, the other institution, and so on, I think he didn't fit any institution. Abraham is our consultant, so to speak, in trying to take forward one of those pillars, citizenship, but more specifically on public engagement. So my question is, with the new Deltas, do you think, given the kind of given the kind of response that Deltas have shown to that particular aspect of this one, do you think scientific citizenship and public engagement are going to remain in the next Delta?
That's a very good question. Like my colleague Lillian would say, why do we do science? For who do we do science? So I think at the center of this question is the community, however you define the community, be it policymakers, be it the ordinary man in the street, be it the research communities, and you just name the rest. It's a very, very important pillar in the Delta's Africa theory of change, but unfortunately, it has not been treated with the same strength and vigor like the other pillars in the Delta's theory of change, like quality of science, or quality of training, or even increasing or improving or cultivating professional research environments in which research can thrive and prosper. So yes, a lot of emphasis will be placed on this particular theory of change going forward. I think it's one of the areas that was flagged by the review committee as not having performed well. And we are naturally worried. At least I would congratulate Nelson and the team for having won an enrichment grant from the trust. And out of the 11 programs, I think only 3 managed to get that, which is an improvement. There's just no reason why all 11 could not win an enrichment grant. So we need some kind of paradigm shift. We no longer have to do scientific citizenship and community engagement as an aside thing, by the way thing. It needs to be at the center of what we do, so that we can extend the value of science beyond ourselves as scientists and professionals. So it's going to be very, very important. We might think of how best to actually tweak that particular theory of change to make it even stronger. Yes, so I encourage you all to stop treating scientific citizenship and public engagement as an aside. So it's going to get a lot of mileage during Delta Phase 2.
Yeah, I cannot miss this opportunity to really emphasize to our fellows, the supervisors, the co-applicants, to redouble your efforts in making sure that you undertake the public engagement that we are trying to implement. Even as late as yesterday, in the workshop we had, I heard some noises of discomfort, indicating that some fellows are still in that mode. Please start or move ahead with public engagement as of yesterday. Not even tomorrow, as of yesterday. Let's appreciate what is public engagement and how you fit it into your work without taking too much time. We are all very sensitive to the issue that you should be able to complete your fellowship by the end of this grant. And let's not look at no-cost extensions. Let's try to complete things during this grant period. Because I suspect that when they're reviewing new applications, what might happen is they say, how did Thrive do? Or the fellows have not completed their training in the 5-year grant. That's not a strength, it is a weakness. And the fellows, PhDs, postdocs, and so on. So let's have good science out there so that we show we've done well. Let's move away from that attitude of public engagement is a distraction. At least if you want the funding from the trust, which is going with the application they're putting into the trust, that is a fund. So if you think that requirement is a waste of time to the fellows, then we shouldn't go for that funding stream. Let's go to Gates Foundation, let's go to whatever else, or whichever funder doesn't emphasize public engagement. I thought I couldn't miss the opportunity to emphasize that. People who don't have plans for that as of yesterday, let's make sure by Friday this week, as we conclude, each of the fellows has got the plans we've been asking for some time in that direction. So I hope we move forward with the same understanding.
One last point, maybe just to drive home this particular issue, how seriously we take it. We've worked with our partners, specifically the Wellcome Trust, to even institute a CPE grant for fellows. So the call will be going out very soon, and it's going to be crunch time for Thrive fellows to compete for this grant. So if the issue was not serious, and if we didn't want to promote it, we wouldn't be making funding available for close calls for Delta's Africa fellows. So please take note of this and take the counsel from the director very seriously. Thank you.
I'm glad for this session, for this briefings. I think we'll try to move on with the other aspects of today's morning's program. I guess since it's quite lonely up here, I'll need somebody to volunteer as a rapporteur.
No, they are rapporteurs for this session.
Okay, so thank you very much. I need to know who they are so I can always look at them whether they're taking notes. You know the show of hand? Who else? Okay, thank you so much. I guess since none of them wishes to join me over there, I'll sit just in front here and call on Cambridge University to start off with telling us in 15 minutes what the achievements have been. And if there are any challenges.
Fine.